Hey guys, welcome to this video, part of my series on the Synido TempoPAD C16 wireless MIDI controller. And in this video, I'm going to be walking you through why I think this is the perfect companion for the Koala sampler app. So we're going to be looking at a couple of things. First of all, how to actually get started with Koala sampler, load up drum kits, load up samples, chop them up, and then how to bring all of that into Synido, including the live performance effects that I was demonstrating at the end. So let's jump straight into it. All right, so hopefully you could follow along on your iOS or Android device. When you open up the Koala Sampler app, you'll probably notice at the very bottom there that there are 4 different banks. So I use these for a couple of different things, but I have emptied bank B just for today's demonstration. So you should probably see something similar to this, where you basically have like a grid of like 16 pads that are unassigned and there's no like samples on them. The quickest way to get some drums going is to click on samples in the bottom right hand corner and click on basics, kits, and just pick one of these. Normally I like to just select one of each. So for example, let's just say 1 kick, 1 snare, 1 hat, maybe 1 clap. Click on load at the end. So now you have these samples over here. The next thing we want to do is import a sample that maybe you'd like to chop. There's so many different ways that you could do this. One of my favorite ways is screen recording a video, for example, from YouTube, of like a song that you like or something that, or a sample that you wanted to chop up, and import the audio over here, where you can start to split the stems and really manipulate it further for your beat. So let me show you how to do that right now. Head over to the hamburger menu over here. Click on import video, and in this case I'm just going to select a screen share video that I have done, and what it's going to do is basically just load up the audio of that screen shared video. Once again, you can head over to YouTube, you can search something like crate digging. You'll find so many different options for tracks to get you started. So let's just take a listen to this one just for a couple seconds. Alright, I don't want to play too much of it so this video doesn't get flagged. But basically, once you have the sample over here, you can just cycle through the menu options, click on tools. The first thing you want to do is click on split stems and split. This will basically separate like the vocals, as you can see here, the drums, the bass as well, and other, which could be, you know, keyboards or guitars or whatever it picks up. All right. One thing to note is that the split stems function inside Koala can be a little bit hit and miss. It's not always like perfect, but then again, you have to keep in mind that this is also contingent on the source material that you're bringing in and how clear that mix is and so on. So go easy on their split stems feature over here. Usually you'll find, or at least what I find anyway, is that you'll just end up using one of these. So in my case, it'll probably just be this, I guess it's like a guitar chorus-y kind of sound. And we're going to be splitting that further. But I think now is a good time to actually start connecting all of this to Synido, because even the actual act of chopping will become so much easier once we hook this up to an actual MIDI controller. What I love about the TempoPAD C16, you probably noticed it at the start, is that this is completely wireless. Obviously you see a cable over here. This is just so that you guys can hear the audio for this video. So it's just going through my audio interface, but it's actually communicating completely wirelessly over here. Hopefully you notice how low the latency is in terms of, like, you know, just playing beats and stuff like that. All right, so let's basically try and map what we have here over into the Synido TempoPAD C16. So the first thing you're going to do is just click on Pad Bank and then just click on Pad Bank B to basically match what we have over here. And what I'm going to do on the app is just hit Settings, MIDI, and before we map MIDI, almost forgot, just make sure that you actually connect the controller via Bluetooth. All you have to do is just click on Connect, and it's going to show not connected here at the start. You just click on that, it's going to show connect. It's pretty straightforward. If you do run into any issues, one thing that I found is that sometimes it says connected, but you don't actually hear anything on the pads yet. If this happens to you after you map everything, all you have to do is honestly just restart the app, and I find that that usually fixes it. So connecting the controller should be very straightforward. Just make sure that you've started it by clicking on the Bluetooth button over here. And then once that is done, we can start mapping the MIDI. So as soon as you click on Map MIDI, you'll notice all these green boxes start to pop up. Anything that is surrounded by a green box is basically something that could be mapped to a controller, to a pad, to a knob, to a fader, whatever. You can see that I already have them mapped over here, but just for the sake of this video, let me just delete some of the mappings. And this is probably going to be similar to what you see as well once you first get started. And then it's as simple as basically just clicking on first sample and then just selecting the pad that you want it to correspond to. So you can see it's changed to the note E3. I'll just do the rest over here. Cool. You can also do similar with the volume, the pitch, and actually anything over here. So even like the volume, for instance, if I just twist this knob, yeah, so you get the idea. Speaking of these knobs, what I like to do specifically for these first two knobs, you can do the same if you like, is actually map them to the sample start and sample length, aka sample end. So I'm just gonna do that here. We'll see how useful this becomes later on. Now, before we go any further, I would actually like to take this sample, the chorusy kind of guitar sound, and chop that one up further. So we'll head over to Tools, and you basically have two different options to chop this. You have something called Convert to Chopper, which is beyond the scope of this video, but it is included in your basic kind of like Koala app for $5. Or if you buy the upgrade pack, which is only another additional like $3 or something, you'll get the auto chop feature, which I highly recommend because it just makes your life so much easier. There's a couple of different ways you can auto chop. You could basically select how many chops you'd like over here, and this is just going to pick it up based off of what Koala thinks could be a good chop. But what I normally do is just head over to the lazy option here and just play back. And every time I see a transient, I would just click on the marker over here. So, oops, let me just start it again. And it doesn't have to be exact. We can always fine tune that later. You know, you can add a couple of like random ones there as well, and again, like tweak that further. But let's just go with the ones that we've had over here. Just click on chop, and notice it's just going to add those to your pads over here. Let me just make sure that these are also mapped. So I'm just going to head over to Settings, Map MIDI, and yeah, I can see everything else is mapped. In case you don't see these notes the same way that I do, it just means that they're not mapped yet. So for example, if this one is still showing a dash for you, once again, just click on that, click on the note, and you'll have that mapped right away. Okay, cool. So this is a perfect opportunity to demonstrate the usefulness of just mapping the start and end time to these two knobs. So if you listen closely, there's like a tiny bit of silence there at the start. I literally just move this over here and have it start right where I want and so on. Just move this a bit more. So now that you know how to map pads and knobs, what you could do is pretty much apply that knowledge to the perform section over here. So you'll notice at the bottom that there are a couple of different effects, both in the vanilla page as well as the strawberry page. And you can just have a list to each one of them to see which ones you want to use on a regular basis. In order for you to kind of like preview these, you need to record something first. So I have the recording from before that I did at the start. Let me actually delete that. We can go ahead and create a different recording. Let's say I'll just record one basic sample so that you can see. So if you want to record, you can just click on the metronome, decide if you want it to be quantized or not, set the tempo. You can determine the swing amount as well. I'll just keep it basic for now and just hit on record. And also for each one of these boxes, which basically represent like segments, you could decide how many bars they are. So I'll just make a 2-bar loop for this one. Right, and there's a couple of different effects you can cycle through here as mentioned, as well as over here. The ones that you like, you basically just head over to settings, map MIDI, and just like we've done before, what I like to do is just map these over to a different control bank. So let's say, we could use control bank B for when we are building the initial beat, but then maybe we could use control bank D for the performance effects. So I just know that as I'm building the beat for the first time, I'm always going to be in control bank B. Once the beat is up and running, looping and whatever, I could basically change to control bank D, and this will literally have a completely different set of functionality based on what I decide over here. So for instance, if I wanted to map, crush to this one, you could do it like so, pitch, and so on. And then you could see here, same exact idea as we've done before. You can pretty much like map them that way. One thing worth mentioning is that I'm only cycling through the pages here so that you can see what I'm doing. But in real life, like if you have a good memory, you could not even need to, you don't even need to change the pages. Like you could just remember where everything is. Remember that, okay, control bank B is for my beat, control bank D is for the performance, and away you go. So hopefully that was helpful. Let me know if you have any questions about how to use Koala Sampler with the Synido TempoPAD C16. I'm still learning myself. I've only been playing around with this for a couple of days. So hopefully you found something valuable in today's video, and I'll catch you next time.